Just wanted to say a quick thank you to all the members of the Kinetic Rugby League channel. Thank you very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to support the channel, support the work that I do, you can do for as little as £1 a month by clicking the join button below this video. But thank you again to all the members. Let's get on with the video. So the worst NRL tipster on YouTube is back once again for another round of predictions. I've left a recap of last round's predictions up on the screen for you guys to check out. I got 7 out of 8 with the wins, 2 out of 8 with the margins. Very happy with the wins. One of my better results so far this season. The margins not so great, but they're difficult to get anyway. They're pretty difficult. But as always, please let me know your predictions in the comment section down below. But let's get on with the first game of this week. Kicking things off this week, we have the Bulldogs versus the Broncos. Starting with form, both have won 3 in their last 5. The Bulldogs lost last time out against the Panthers, but the Broncos are on a 3-game win streak. These sides have already gone head-to-head, and the Broncos took the win 42-18, but there were 3 sin bins in there for the Bulldogs, so it's not the best game to look into unless you look at the 13-on-13 performances whenever they actually both had 13 players on the field. This time, both sides will be hit with major state of origin losses. Canterbury will be without Kiraz, Mann, King and Crichton, and they're missing Saluka Fafita on top of that as well. That means that Blake Wilson, Anori Tuala, Harry Hayes and Samuel Hughes will kind of fill in those starting roles. The Broncos are without Shibasaki, Carrigan Haas and Walsh due to state of origin, therefore players like Selwyn Cobbo and Dean Mariner will come back in and fill the voids in the back line at least. Now I have backed the Broncos in the last few weeks, and that's actually worked out quite nicely for me, to be honest. But a big reason why is because they've had Mann back, but they've had Walsh back as well, who is now unavailable because of state of origin. So even with major changes for both sides, that kind of forces me to lean towards the Bulldogs. And to be honest, the players they've brought in have shown enough quality for the Bulldogs over the weeks and months and kind of the last couple of years as well, that they can produce and they can adjust to the changes. Now the Broncos have been the better attacking side this year, but the Bulldogs are clearly the better defensive side, and I think they'll be able to shut that down fairly well. I think with the consistency in the spine as well for the Bulldogs this week, plus the injection of Galvin later on in the game is going to be huge, and now they've had another week to keep building those combinations in the spine and for Galvin to feel more comfortable. Finally, the Bulldogs have won 5 of their 6 games at a core stadium this season, but the Broncos have won 6 of their past 7 games against the Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs haven't beaten the Broncos at a core stadium since 2019. So recent history does lean towards the Bulldogs, but I think the Bulldogs are strong enough now, especially defensively this year, to kind of rewrite that history and get the win this week. So I'm going to go with the Bulldogs to win 1-12 points, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Blake Wilson. Next up, we have the Raiders versus Dragons. So the Dragons have won 3 in their last 5 games, but the Raiders have won 5 in their last 5 games. The Raiders will be without Josh Papali'i, and the Dragons are without Valentine Holmes, both due to State of Origin Game 3. But the Dragons are also missing Stewart, Leilua, Lawson and Couchman, so immediately, compared to last week's squad, the Raiders can keep more consistency in the backs and in the forwards as well. I trust Horsburgh and Tarpany for the Raiders to set a platform for Starling and the rest of the spine to create a lot of opportunities. I think if the Dragons can win the fight up front, that'll be difficult to do, but if they can at least compete well up front, they can close the gap. But in the backs, there's been a lot of talk and complaints, a lot of noise around Flanagan. He's not the only one at fault, by the way, for the lack of control, creativity, and sometimes leadership in games. Some people want a shake-up, but what can the Dragons really do in the spine? Is Lachlan Ilias the answer? To me, no. If you guys have any thoughts, do let me know in the comments. Now, the Raiders, they don't have many issues this season, but they have improved defensively in the last few weeks. I think that was one of the slight issues. They've conceded a fair few too many points in some games, even games that they've won. But the Dragons defensively are still conceding way too many points, including taking a 56-6 loss to the Dolphins just a few weeks ago. Now, in attack, however, the Dragons do have it in them to put points on the board. I usually feel like the points come later into the game as they're normally on the back foot early on. When they hold on for a little while, they start to bounce back. Now, final word for stats. The Raiders have won their last 4 games against the Dragons. The Dragons haven't won at GIO Stadium since 2015. The Dragons have only won 2 of their last 7 away games this season, and the Raiders are aiming for 7 consecutive wins for the first time in 9 years. I think the Raiders will find plenty of ways to score on both sides of the field, and I want to see their defence continuing to improve. So I'm going to go with the Raiders to win 13+, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Xavier Savage. Next up, we have the Cowboys versus the Storm. Starting with form for both sides, the Cowboys have only won 2 in their last 5, but the Storm have won 4 in their last 5, winning those 4 games in a row. And that run of wins does also include a win over the Cowboys 38-14 just a few weeks ago. Now on stats, Melbourne are the significantly better attacking and defending side. The Cowboys are not even close, with the Cowboys conceding an average of 30 points per game so far this season, which is awful. The Cowboys will be missing 4 players due to state of origin. That's Nanai, Cotter, Robson and Dearden. They'll be replaced by Duffy in the halves, Bateman in the back row, Edwards at hooker and Temple Kalepo will be on the bench to fill another void there. Jordan McLean is back in the forwards though, he's going to be a huge help up front. Melbourne Storm are without Munster, Grant, Utakamanu, Liero and Coates. So this would have been a great time to play Melbourne if you weren't missing 4 extremely important pieces yourself. Now Joe Chan will start at centre, Kane Bradley will be on the wing, Taron Wishart will take Munster's spot at 6, Bronson Garlick will start at 9 and Asfa Solomona will start at lock. I absolutely love this battle in the forwards by the way. McLean, Neem and McIntyre versus Kamikamitha, King and Asfa Solomona. That's going to be a good watch. With both sides missing a lot of key players though, who do I trust in this game? Well, I trust Scott Drinkwater, I trust Moritalangi, I trust Griffin Neem up front. But I trust Ryan Pappenhausen and Jerome Hughes more. I also have more trust in the attacking and defensive structures that the Storm have in place already, as well as their form. But because of the major losses for both, I think this could be a lot closer than last time. Now the Cowboys won 3 of their past 4 games against the Storm, so the Storm have actually lost their last 3 games at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. But I do think the Storm have enough in this one, so I'm going to go with Melbourne Storm to win 1-12 points, and for a try scorer I'm going to go with Grant Anderson. Next up we have the Roosters versus Tigers. Starting with form, the Tigers have lost 5 in their last 5 games. They're on an awful losing streak at the moment. The Roosters have won 3 in their last 5 games, winning 2 in a row. Both sides will have to make some changes. The Roosters dealing with a lot more since they're without Crichton, Watson, Collins, Toya and Lenu due to state of origin, and Wong is also unavailable as well. So Tom Rodwell will start on the wing this week. Ayuelu will start at 9. Makatoa will start in the front row with Naufahu White. Egan Butcher, Foketi and Steep will complete the forward pack. So it's a very young pack going into this one. Now the Tigers aren't dealing with as many changes, but given the current situation and strength of their squad, I think these changes are almost as impactful. So there's no Carousel, there's no Mason, there's no De Silva, and no Luai due to state of origin as well. So the Tigers have a makeshift lineup in the backs, yes with players that are familiar with those positions, but they could really struggle with combinations. Taruva will be at fullback, Dewey at 6, Fainu at 7, and Hope is at 9. The thing is with the Roosters, they've only won 7 of their 14 games, but I've said in the past that they are dangerous multiple times, and I think there's plenty of evidence that they are if you just watch the performances and how well they're actually playing and competing against some of the best teams in the league. Even when they've lost, they've still performed pretty well. The Tigers look decent when they play with a lot of energy and intent, but they don't look very convincing when it's a normal looking game, so to speak. If they can make it a little bit chaotic in whatever way possible, getting the Roosters off their groove a bit, they might be able to chuck the ball around with May getting offloads. Maybe they can do a bit of damage. They've not been a great defensive side this year, but recently they've kept a few games relatively close. But that Roosters attack has been looking sharp recently. The defence has been improving, conceding just 8 points in the last round and the round before that. But finally, the Roosters have won 18 of their past 19 games against the West Tigers. And I think with Sandon Smith and Hugo Savala continuing to build their connections and combinations, I think they're in a better position to control the game and create more opportunities. So for a prediction, I'm going to go with the Roosters to win 1-12 points. And for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Mark Nwangani-Tawaze. Finally for this round, we have the Seagulls versus the Rabbitohs. Both are on really poor form at the moment, but it is looking better for Manly, winning 2 in their last 5. But the Bunnies have lost 5 in their last 5. I did mention last week for the Bunnies though, they've been on a very tough run. A very tough run. They played the Warriors, then the Raiders, then the Bulldogs, then Storm, and then at the weekend they faced an informed Dolphins side who battered them 50-28. But Manly this season have been the better attacking and defending side as well. In terms of player availability, Nathan Brown will be missing for Manly, and Latrell Mitchell will be missing for the Rabbitohs due to State of Origin Game 3. South Sydney will choose to put Alex Johnston at fullback. If they had Jai Gray instead, I'd feel more confident about that kind of change at the back. The Seagulls will go into this with their strongest list of backs available in my opinion, and a massive advantage for Manly is the forward pack. They've got huge players and strong runners starting and on the bench. And like I said for the Rabbitohs last week, I don't think their pack is big enough. So I do think Manly could dominate up front, and then you include the pace, skill and cohesion that Manly have in the backs. I think Manly could be way too much this week. Now, recent history between these sides leans heavily in favour of the Rabbitohs, as the Seagulls haven't beaten the Rabbitohs at 4 Pines Park since 2019, and the Rabbitohs have won 8 of their past 9 games against the Seagulls. On top of that, Anthony Searbold has only won 2 from 8 against Wayne Bennett coached teams. But I cannot look past the extremely poor form for the Rabbitohs and the overall quality on paper that Manly can bring to this game compared to the Rabbitohs. They're bigger, faster, more skillful, and they're clearly the better team this year and as of right now. I think the Wayne Bennett factor could play a part. I think the Rabbitohs have found ways to keep a fair few tough games quite close in recent weeks, aside from last week, of course. They have been scoring a solid amount of points even when losing, so I can see the Rabbitohs potentially making this a close one, maybe causing, I believe it would be an upset, but I do trust Manly just a little bit more right now, and the Bunnies' defence has been awful recently. So I'm going to go with the Seagulls to win 13+, and for a try scorer, I'm going to go with Lehigh Hopewati. So to recap my predictions for this round, I'm going to go with the Bulldogs 1-12, Raiders 13+, Storm and Roosters 1-12, and the Seagulls 13+. So for win confidence, I'm at 70%. I think the Bulldogs for me should get the win over the Broncos, but that one could be tough, given the form that the Broncos are on at the moment. Raiders 13+ might be a bit of a stretch, but I do at least trust them to win. Storm and Roosters, I do have more faith in those sides in their games, but they are potential bogey games because of the major losses that both teams are facing going into it. The Seagulls, even though I've gone 13+, I think that one is most likely to mess up in my opinion. I just don't know. It's a kind of a gut feeling over the Seagulls right now. It's kind of where the evidence is leaning me towards, but there's a gut feeling that they could mess that one up because they're not perfect this year, Manly. I think they kind of have it in them. I think the game against the Titans a couple of weeks ago kind of shows that. But yeah, win confidence 70% and margin confidence 75%. So yeah, that's my recap for this round. So there you have my NRL Round 18 predictions. If you guys have your own thoughts, do let me know in the comment section down below. Love to know what you guys think is going to happen in this upcoming round. But as always, if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content and State of Origin content, and more of it coming up soon. But yeah, if you want to join the Discord, there's an invite link in the description, and if you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. But that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.